the Jersey Chamber of Commerce Hustings for St Helier South. I'm delighted to have with us some of the candidates that we've got in front of us. Notable that we haven't got with us. Bernard Manning, who's not with us today. Chris Hopkins is due to be with us and might join at some point. Beatrice Porre is a Reform candidate, represented here by Sam Mezek, as is Tom Coles. So thank you to those that you can see on your screen that we have with us at the moment. We'll introduce them individually. A quick 2-minute round robin of them and their manifesto and why they're standing comes first. David Waugh, you're first up. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Murray. My name's David Waugh. As the owner of Cooper & Company that employs 30 individuals and trades mostly in South St Helier, I totally understand the issues that make a difference to my team and our customers, summed up simply as housing, food and childcare costs. I'm standing because I want to help create conditions that enable people and businesses to fulfill their potential and improve the standard of living and well-being of all islanders. On housing, is the housing gateway sufficiently inclusive? Why does the public sector rent levels track those of the private sector? And we need a council of ministers to prioritise housing. On tax, the 0-10 tax regime is complicated. It was set up to ensure our finance industry remained competitive in a global market, but it came with local consequences. Is it still fit for purpose? I hear calls for GST to be removed from food. Whilst I'm not against the idea, it will have a major impact on government revenue. I don't want to see solutions that result in Middle Jersey paying more of the island's tax bill. We need to broaden free school meals that ensures that all children get a decent meal a day. Most importantly, we must not forget in a civilized society it's unacceptable to have a choose between heating and eating. Cost of building new hospital is totally out of hand and risks mortgaging future generations. Don't wish to seek out a new site. I simply want to see the existing hospital remain where it is, with Overdale focusing on recuperation. We need to pause, but we also need to deliver. And there are the people on the island capable of doing this. I want a vision for the whole of St Helier. Our population, we have a major demographic time bomb on our hands. How will we as a community adapt to an older population? There are things we can do. We need to plan to stay in touch with those who have residential qualifications, but who live away from the island. The Jersey diaspora can be a huge source of our future workforce needs. The cost of government is also running out of control. A headcount increase of 800, an additional 100 million expenditure is over and above is extraordinary. There are opportunities to diversify our economy, and I'd like to pursue that. Purpose of government is to put the appropriate framework in place. Finally, we need to ensure our education system is fit for purpose. I'd like to help guide the process and hope that you will vote for me, David Waugh.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll try to get through as quickly as you possibly could, but I appreciate it. Thank you, David. We seem to have lost Russell and Judy for a short time, but hopefully they'll join back with us in a few minutes' time. From all of that, we go to Sam. Sam Mezek, over to you with your first 2 minutes. Good morning.
Morning, Murray, and thank you to anyone who's tuning into this. Just a very brief introduction on myself first. I'm Sam Mezek, and I have been a States member now for the last 8 years, including previously serving as a St Helier deputy. I've also served in both government and in scrutiny. And for the entirety of my time in the States, I've been the leader of Reform Jersey. In this particular election, I'm really lucky that I'm joined by two fantastic running mates in Tom Coles, who is an operations manager for a security firm and previously served as a union rep, and also Beatrice Porre, who founded and runs a business in the marketplace. And it's been a joy to work with both of them to help come up with our platform alongside our broader Reform Jersey team, which I'm very pleased is the most diverse that we've put forward in an election before, and lots of talented people standing across the island. Our election manifesto this time round is called the New Deal for Jersey. Some people might understand the historic connotations of that phrase, New Deal. A New Deal is a way that a government chooses to leave a crisis, using it as an opportunity not just to go back to what they had before that particular crisis, but to use the mobilisation of efforts to fix some of the other issues that their society was facing. And Jersey was not a paradise before the pandemic. There were lots of issues that we were facing, growing inequality being, in my view, the biggest one there. And so we think we've now got an opportunity to resolve some of those issues. And our manifesto contains many of the ideas that we're proposing, but our three key priorities will be equality, sustainability, and accountability. And we want to play a leading role in that next government And if anyone would like to read more about the plans there, you can find that on our website. And of course, we've also got our Housing Crisis Action Plan, which I'm sure is something that will come up in this event. Thank you.
That's the closest to 2 minutes we've had in every hustings ever, at 2 minutes, 0.15 seconds. Thank you very much, Sam Mezek.
I'll cut down the 0.15 next time.
Yeah, you're just not trying hard enough, are you? Thank you very much indeed for that. Jo Luce, it's your 2 minutes worth next, and so over to you.
Fantastic, and thank you very much, Murray, for inviting me on this event. My name is Jo Luce. I'm standing as part of Jersey Alliance to ask for your vote in St Helier South. My job, if I'm elected, is to work for you to deliver. In the last 35 years, I've been in Jersey. I've become a mum. I have a daughter and a wife. Over the last 12 years, I've built my business from 1.5 people to 35. I run my business from Pier Road, and some of my family live in Havre de Pas. I want to help Jersey Alliance to deliver better housing provision for the young people, both in our parish and more broadly for the people that I employ. That's really critical to me. I believe Jersey Alliance working together as a team have a viable chance of achieving this. I want to work within community more than I am at the moment. I have spoken to a number of musicians, artists, and others who are involved in this area. And I genuinely believe that if we get this right, we can improve the community for those who are in the community. I also know from those who I've met walking around this process that there are lonely and there are vulnerable who are just not being heard, who are not being listened to. And there are a number of steps and ways that we can really achieve better outcomes for all of those people. As a business owner, I understand I have to deliver, because if I don't deliver, then my business goes down the Swanee. There's consequences, and I need budgets and I need effective planning. Because of this, I really do understand the costs of red tape and meeting a number of stakeholders' obligations, but still delivering. I do this and I balance within my business of giving a lot to charity. I give a lot of profits to our people and to enhance Digitech. I like solutions, not rhetoric.
Okay, that's Jo, where I'm going to leave it, if we may.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. That's just over your 2 minutes, so we'll try and keep it as equitable as we can for everybody. We go next for two minutes worth to Russell. Russell, over to you.
Thank you, Murray. Good morning. Good morning, Chamber. So at the beginning of this term, I took on the role of chairman of the Privileges and Procedures Committee, charged with making headway on electoral reform. And I was also the chair of the Planning Committee, which I'd sat on in the previous term. And then in February 2021, I gave up both those posts when I was appointed Minister for Housing and Communities. So you can see from that list, I'm not afraid of a challenge. They're all challenging roles. There are places to hide in the States Assembly, but I don't seek them. I'm up front and I want to be part of the action, and I like being busy and active and trying to get results and deliver. So elections are about the future, not the past, but I want to just quickly tell you some of the things I've set in train in the short time that I've been housing minister. One of the first things was to end the creation of new share transfer units, which therefore curtails the ability for foreign investors to buy property in Jersey. We can't actually, so we've done that. We stopped that around April. We can't, at the moment, you can still conveyance properties via share transfer on historic share transfer units. Changing that, which I would like to do, is legally difficult, but we're working on it. We've also launched the Housing Advice Service, which is doing really well and is busy, and it's a way for people to, if they foresee problems coming down the highway, they can contact the Housing Advice Service and we can try to stop those problems actually happening. Prevention better than cure. And as I say, that's popular and working well. We've launched the Homelessness Strategy, and I'm working with the critical support team on furthering that and trying to reach our aims to have eradication of homelessness in Jersey. I have set up it's being hired at the moment, a new rent tribunal under the old existing law, because I thought it was better to get it up and running. So that's in train, and we're going to charge them with changing the law and making it fit for purpose.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you very much indeed. Never could talk to time. Thank you very much indeed for yours. We will now go to Judy Martin. Judy.
Good morning, Chamber members. I've been a member in the States Assembly in this district for 22 years. It's my 8th election. I've had many different roles, and I challenged a few times for Social Security. This time I was actually offered it, given it, and not challenged. And as I wonder if somebody knew what was coming down the line with COVID, etc. The other job, big job I've had for the last 4 years is to be in charge of disability, diversity and inclusion. And I'm really pleased that we finally got money for the disability strategy, which was actually written in 2014. It's fully funded. It does need a lot more work. I've got fantastic staff down there, and it's being delivered. Back to Social Security, I've enabled all lower incomes to have the cheap access to doctors. Now I'm working, and officers are working with doctors to see where we can go and help people above just income support, just about managing, because we do know people worry about paying the doctor. Just before recess, I found out we had a bit of money down in the budget. So I brought in the temporary cost of living scheme, which will help around 12,000 people. And it's not just income support, it's just about managing pensioners, around 1,000, 1,200. And it's £40 for a pension a couple of months and £80 for a family. And there is another team set up looking at business help and, again, other people. So they're working there. We've met a couple of times, and also there'll be options as soon as the new council ministers get their feet under the table. They won't be hanging around, and they know with the rise in the cost of living, in fuel and everything, there's going to be a lot more to do. So if I'm re-elected, I'm not afraid to have again or take on Social Security. It's entirely up to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And indeed, entirely up to the states members once they're elected. Let's go from that to Nick Lecornu. Nick, your 2 minutes starts very shortly, so over to you.
Good morning. My name is Nick Lecornu. I'm an employment lawyer. I represent employees in the Jersey Employment and Discrimination Tribunal. This specialisation developed during time as a deputy when I was elected in 2014. Constituents needed my help. I had the skills. They are much honed today. Whilst I represent employees primarily, I have acted for employers. I have seen and understand both sides of the relationship. I'm proud to have the leading case in Jersey on disability discrimination, PRIO against Valor Limited. Often I provide my services on pro bono basis. I fill the gap in Jersey's abysmal legal aid system, which anyway does not cover employment matters. I do so because I'm motivated by a sense of social justice. I'm a community member of Unite the Union. I support employees joining trade unions. Before the election began, I approached Unite the Union for financial support and solidarity as an independent, non-party affiliated candidate who is clear and sympathy with their values. Financial support was declined. I asked rhetorically, is that something that many members in Jersey would endorse? Most of my clients work in hospitality. I have to say that some lawyers have a lot to learn if they're going to recruit and retain their staff. Better treatment and better contracts are essential. 0 hours contracts, however flexible for employers, wreak havoc in workers' lives. St Helier South is essentially what the French would call a banlieue populaire. Poverty is perhaps a major issue. One wouldn't think so if one heard the majority, if not all, the candidates standing in this district. In-work poverty is an issue. Low wages are the cause. I have met many shop workers earning the minimum wage, £9.22. They are barely getting by. I support the minimum wage being the living wage of £11.27. I would go further and suggest the minimum wage should be £15. That would at least allow the poorest to have a decent standard of living. Thank you very much. Thank you, Murray, for allowing me a few more seconds.
Well, I just wanted you to finish your sentence. At least be generous to start with, anyway. Thank you, Nick. We will go to Angela next. Angela, good morning to you.
Oh, good morning, everyone. I've been very disappointed with the way Jersey was being governed. And as Jersey was entering another episode of change and political parties were evolving, I decided to look at what the various parties saw as their main objectives. Change in the electoral boundaries had been recommended, and this, I believe, is only the start of changes required. I found that Jersey Liberal Conservative Party's aims and objectives to be the most aligned to my own, and I became a supporter and then a member of JLC. Most striking for me was JLC's commitment to investigating and listening to what you, the electorate, wanted. And I've regularly been seen in town asking islanders about their concerns and opinions. For many, the current change is not an acceptable solution. And JLC are committed in their manifesto to addressing this if they are elected in the next assembly. And they are working in coalition with the Progress Party. The JLC's We're Listening approach, which to date they have demonstrated, appealed to me. That is, JLC listen, JLC hear, JLC understand, and JLC will action. Our island's current situation appears to be dire right now, as I've said. JLC's manifesto headings of political accountability, restoring good governance, addressing the issues of the economy, population, housing, environment, health, education, and community matters are what all JLC candidates, if elected, will strive for. Sadly, these issues above have been issues for many years now. Bringing about change as a single individual within the state's chambers can be a very onerous task. And I believe this is where party politics has the advantages of achieving success. As a former health professional senior manager, predominantly in London NHS teaching hospitals, I've keenly watched the very expensive fiasco of what, where, and how we should have our health service provision. Being a previous Assistant Minister for Social Security, am I up on time?
You're within 5 seconds. I'll let you finish off.
That's okay. It's just what I was going to say is I consider the health insurance fund, a ring-fenced fund, has been raided now for several years to pay for services which it wasn't set up for.
Very good, Angela. We're going to leave it at that. Thank you very much indeed. We'll come back and no doubt talk more in some of the subjects we're going to cover very shortly. Chris Hopkins has joined us. Good morning, Chris. Thank you for joining us. Chris, you've got an opportunity for 2 minutes to start with about yourself and your manifesto, should you wish. In camera, if you can. Angela, by the way, just so you know, we couldn't see you, but we could hear you. So, Chris, over to you.
Good morning, Murray. I'm very sorry. I had a few IT issues this morning, and I've only literally just got back and online, so apologies for that. In relation to my 2 minutes, I'll enlighten you slightly. Obviously, you and I have known each other for many years, so a lot of it will be quite boring for you. I am Chris Hopkins, and I'm standing for St Helier South, mainly because I live in this part of the island. I have served the island for 34 years already as a police officer and a traffic officer for the Royal Court. I'm currently the Vice President of JCSA Prospect Union, and I've done that along with the Police Association for 22 years standing by anybody, any member that required my help. And I've done that over that period of time. I'm now standing for election because I think the government are making a stream of poor decisions which seem to always be clouded in mystery and secrecy until it's too late and the money's gone. I heard Angela talking of a political party. The main reason I haven't signed up for a political party is that as an independent, every vote that I attend will be on behalf of my neighbours and my people who vote for me. I will never be called to vote in line with a party. I will always vote for the people. In relation to housing, which is basically the main issue affecting the entire island, it seems to be in every aspect at the moment. It causes lack of staff, lack of commitment to businesses, etc. I have put forward 2 plans to increase housing stock within St Helier at Green Street car park, at Pier Road car park and St Helier car park, which it include a high number of electric charging points as well to assist with the move towards green credentials. I have been learning a lot since I decided to stand, and there's a lot of issues that I am now taking on board from different areas of places that I wouldn't have been an expert or anywhere near it. We do need to increase our green credentials all the way across finance. It's been brought to our attention that many of the companies in Jersey are now starting to self-govern. And basically, I can see your fingers, so that'd be me for now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Chris. We'll come back round and we'll talk about some of the subjects which I know are very much live issues, as pretty much everything is to the Chamber membership. So let's just look at some of those that I've been asked to, on behalf of Chamber, talk to you about today and draw out your thoughts on. And I think one of the most important and pressing one for businesses in Jersey, and if you look at St Helier South and look at where the businesses in Jersey are, this is the economic driver. This is the central area. If you had to put a ring around one area where you thought that this probably had more business and industry and trade, it would probably be your constituency. One of the biggest problems they've got is recruiting staff. And some of you in business will know that. Some of you in politics will know that you've had people knocking on your door every day. So how do we improve the lot of businesses to ensure that they can recruit people? Does this mean that we have to upskill? Does this mean that we have to change our system of how we give permission to employ people? What's the way forward? I'm going to mix up the order, if I may, on this. Actually, I'm going to come to you first, Nick Lecornu. Nick, you've represented employees and employers. You touched on the subject with a degree of knowledge there. So in terms of getting people into work and making sure that businesses can operate, because frankly, at the moment, some of them are not operating at full tilt because they haven't got enough staff. How do they do that? And what will you do as a candidate to support businesses?
Well, I think Brexit is the major issue. And I haven't got a magic wand for that, I'm afraid. But it's obviously restricting the flow of inward, particularly to hospitality, of staff. I'm conscious of that. Instead, we've got workers coming on 9-month work permits, which now by policy extension will go on a little bit longer. Perhaps they'll go on indefinitely because the whole thing is a farce. But we've got labour coming from places like Kenya, and I actually have a client at the moment who's come from Kenya, and treatment is not terribly good. Wages are poor, 9.22. I think employers are going to have to up the game, particularly in hospitality, and pay better wages and provide better conditions, better contracts that will attract, I think, Jersey workers, those locally who view particularly hospitality as a lower status job. That's got to change. Remember, in France, being a waiter was once a métier. It was a trade. Those guys who we've seen in if you go into a Paris bistro, you will see a full uniform. They're very conscious of their status. That has to return. And that can be furthered by employers. Also, the problem is, of course, small employers, small businesses like hospitality, they're meeting with finance. How can you compete with an international bank? It's incredibly difficult because they get priority when it comes to staff and licenses and so on. And I'm afraid hospitality is a bit second class in that respect. I do feel for them. I understand and see those problems which employers do have. So I'm very close to it.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being close to it and understanding it. I'm not sure we're any closer to understanding what we do about it, but we'll go to Joe Luce next. Joe, you mentioned you're in business. You have to deliver, otherwise the business goes down the Swanee, I think were the words that you used.
I did.
What can we do to improve the lot of the employer, because it's a challenging time if you're in business.
Absolutely. No, it is absolutely a challenging time, and I have huge empathy for those in hospitality who can't necessarily provide the same level of minimum wage structure perhaps as in agriculture that perhaps the finance industry or those in financial services, as I am, can probably do. Huge empathy. However, I think earnings they're a blend of different things. Having available accommodation, having a good space to live, having at least absolutely minimum wage, and I would say definitely focusing on working wage and heading towards that are absolutely key. I think safety of families, people coming into Ireland, reducing red tape is critical, and the visa issue, not so much just the cost of visas, the actual complexity, the level of, somebody within agriculture having to complete a form that runs to 20 or 30 pages, horrendous, absolutely awful. These are all areas that can be simplified, red tape can be removed, and we can make business work more effectively. For me, that's an absolute. For me, there are simpler processes. Education is huge, and I know Nick talked to people perhaps coming in and being attracted by finance. I think it's brilliant. I started in hospitality. I was a waitress. I have no shame, and I worked into finance. I'm thrilled. I qualified and got qualifications. Of course I did. That's a great thing to do, and I absolutely applaud it. We as business put a huge sum into developing people. I love that the construction industry over here, 95% of its residents are local, and a good sort of an average take-home pay is somewhere in the region of 800 quid, 850 quid a week. I think that's great. Let's encourage, diversify, build. Let's empower, not remove by cynicism. Let's find plans and let's find mechanisms. That's what we can do. And as business, I think business can do this. We can be positive. We can evaluate risks. We can see what's needed, and we can cut through the red tape, which is critical.
Okay, Joe, thank you very much indeed. Angela Jean, going to come to you on this subject. In terms of getting people into work, there are businesses not working at full 100%. They're working at 70%, 60% in some cases. They're having to close some days because they haven't got staff. Yeah. Now, if you start in business, that's a real problem because that's really narrowed down your profit margin. How are we going to change that?
I think we need to actually take an inward look at ourselves and our own attitudes. We need to be supporting young people, or any person really, in the island, that this can be and attract. All aspects of employment in Jersey can be attractive. And as you say, a lot of hospitality industries here in Jersey are having huge difficulties. But how much are they actually working with the local Social Security department in terms of persons looking for work and how they can train them up, and also to our schools? And this goes across everything, hospitality, finance, or anything else, in terms of, do they offer any sponsoring to our young people? to go on to further education. And that does not necessarily mean that they have to go off to university. And going off to university isn't always everybody's choice. We should have more scholarship type assistance from employers.
Okay.
Are
Angela,
they?
Go on, carry on. Sorry, I thought you were stopping there for a moment.
No. Are they actually working, for example, with Highlands, who do excellent catering and hospitality training up there? And I would really like to see the employers working with them so that at the weekends, these young people can actually, if they wish, be working, earning themselves a little bit of money and actually using the skills that they are being trained. And I can see you're itching to ask for a question. Go.
No, I'm not. I'm not itching for anything at the moment, although I'm itching to go to the next person. So, Angela, thank you very much indeed for that. The Social Security Minister before the recess, Judy, it's always a problem, and you and I have both sat on the Housing and Work Advisory Group, as you have with others, trying to fathom out whether we can issue another entitled to work permission so that a business can stay upright. It's a real challenge. You've got back to work, where there are some really great success stories there, but there are also some terrible stories of those that were on back to work who didn't want to go and do the job and didn't show up on the first day or the second day or even the third day. So bit of sympathy on both sides here. We're in a real pinch point right now. Brexit, certainly COVID, people returning back to their country of origin. How are we going to solve this problem? Because we seem to have an awful lot of services, whether it's retail or hospitality or others, and not enough people to go around.
And there's also construction. We met with them the other day. And you know, Mary, we have actively seeking work, 740 people, and actually 500 people who are doing no work, and there'll be other reasons. You know, we've put in place where we paid 6 months wages in Social Security to train people, to answer Angela's question. And the majority of people do want to work, and they are working on much more than the minimum wage, because the income support payments have really decreased as well. So the hours that people are working, they're being paid more. Now, we really got a problem. So this is not going to be really popular, but we're going to have to look at it. We've found out on Hayward, we're still on it. 445 people have been displaced from registered housing because they've shut down, sold up, and they're being converted into probably flats or etc. Now, that's a lot of people. Now, we've also got Brexit. We've got the 9 months, the new one, our one, 9 months, 4 years, and etc. We really have to look at, well, if we want people to come here, your money is as good as my money. I've done the 20 years and got my qualities, but we want to attract people. Am I good enough to rent in the same sector? Not buy. Have a look. You're coming here. We cannot house people in registered accommodation. For some reason, the landlords are stepping away. I don't know if it's too much red tape. I don't know if there's such good money at the moment to sell, and no hassle, one sell and they made a nice bit of money. But that's one way we can help businesses. And construction, hospitality and retail must work together. They've all got different qualities. Some have got rooms, some have got people, some have got et cetera, et cetera. So just all working together will help a bit. But we're going to have to bring people in. I'm sorry, short-term permits, but we're going to have to bring people in. We haven't got enough people to train up, and that's just what it is. Sorry, Mary.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. We'll come back to the, housing, and we've got the luxury of having two of the housing ministers from the last intake to talk about that in just a second. Sam Messick, going to come to you on this with the view of where employment is at the moment. It's a real struggle. It's a stretch. You can walk down King Street and you'll see signs in the window, assistant wanted, shop assistant wanted. Chefs, can't get them for love nor money. Now, we've been saying that for 8 years, certainly, and probably a little bit longer. So how are we, and we're not alone. Jersey's not alone. Let's be honest about that. But how do we make the lot better? And if there's businesses looking in on this at the moment and looking at prospective candidates, what are you going to do to make it easier?
Indeed, and I recognise everything that you've just said, and would add to that this is also affecting our public services as well. There are some very key areas where we are really struggling to get and keep talented people in those roles. So it's affecting our community on all sorts of different levels. I think we need to be very frank about a basic point, which is that if a full-time role doesn't provide for the person in that role a platform for them to have a decent standard of living, we really can't be surprised that it will be difficult to fill those roles. Lots of small businesses know this because they know that they have to provide a good remuneration and a package and terms and conditions to their workers, because if they're going to invest in them to give them the skills they need to provide a good service, they want to make sure they're not going to run off and take those skills elsewhere and send that business back to the drawing board there. So when it comes to the quality of life for those employees, we can't just leave it to businesses to provide for that, because a lot of businesses just can't afford it. So what can the government do? Well, the most, in my view and Reform Jersey's view, the most important thing the government could do to ease off a lot of that pressure is to resolve the housing crisis. If that is causing pressure from employees or prospective employees to need higher wages just so they can maintain a decent standard of living, then that will have a knock-on effect to businesses who may well struggle to afford those increased salaries. So if we can take the heat out by resolving the housing crisis, that will have a knock-on effect for those businesses and public services. And that really is the number one thing that I get told when I speak to people who are at the coalface of this. Look, we had a great person who came in and did this role. They lasted a few months and then went off elsewhere because it just turned out that life here wasn't all it was cracked up to be, because we had the beaches and the sunshine, but they struggled to afford their rent. And if they've got the skills and can go somewhere where those pressures aren't as severe, you can't blame people for doing that.
So enabling better housing and more affordable housing so that employers can employ. Okay, we're going to come, I'll go to Russell on that in just a second. Before I do, Chris Hopkins. Chris, your thoughts are on the struggle at the moment to recruit and to find staff.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sam's right. It's not just the private sector, the public sector. Last count, I believe, was 154 vacancies. You have to look at this in two aspects. I think there's the short term and the long term. The short term, we could be lifting a lot of the red tape around licensing. I'm aware of companies that have got staff waiting to come here, can't come here because of red tape, because of visas, because of licensing. This needs addressing as quickly as possible. Some of those staff, and we found out yesterday, more so in agriculture, that they've got premises to go and stay in that wouldn't affect the housing market at all. So there is a short-term fix, but obviously that's only going to get a few people up and running. It's only going to assist a couple of companies. The long-term fix is we do have to increase the housing stock. We do have to make it fairer. And the point that was made a short while ago is that whether you've been here for 20 years or 10 minutes, your rent should be the same. States, Andingham Homes rental, that shouldn't be linked directly to the private sector. That should be means tested for the people that should be living there. However, the long term, we have to increase housing stock so that the long term staff can be employed. But there are things we can do now to get staff into this island quicker so that they can assist in many areas.
Right. Russell Labby, a prime time to come to you, sir. We've talked about crisis, housing crisis, what crisis? There's a crisis. Well, at least that's what I'm saying. Is it being resolved? Are we getting somewhere with this?
Well, let's talk about the immediate crisis for especially the hospitality industry in terms of recruiting staff, retaining staff, accommodating staff. And Chamber reached out to me just shortly before I left office. because I know the situation is desperate. And actually, I said, it's not me. I know I'm housing minister, but this is economic development. This is the planning department, and I will help.
Hello.
I will help.
Yeah, you don't want to leave it there.
Okay, Nick, you're being heard quite audibly at the moment.
Yeah, just muted him. It's
okay.
Fine.
So, first things first, that 9-month license, that should be changed to 2 years as soon as possible. And how, so Chamber are coming to our government and saying, look, we've got the money, and we've got some sites, but we want to build accommodation for seasonal transient workers. And I think that probably needs a special category in the planning law. And I would say, you know, from day one, from June the 23rd, or from when the next council is elected, I did get the relevant ministers in the same room. There was resistance from planning to entertain the idea of a different category for seasonal workers. It's very, very important that Chamber is able to persuade the new planning minister that it is not talking about anything that is substandard in terms of accommodation. It might be more communal. It might be more like good new modern halls of residence, but ones with a safe and individual place to go for everybody, because that's needed after a long day at work. So I'm just saying that I think there is a possibility here that government could help. They need to be convinced. The planning minister will need to be convinced that nothing unsafe or substandard is being proposed. That, I mean, it's absolutely vital. Obviously, we get this right, this hub of industry and commerce in St Helier South is helped as much as possible. We're going into, we are in and going into further cost of living crisis. The best way economically to get out of that is for growth in the economy. And we must recognize that industry can't grow if it can't recruit, retain and accommodate its staff. So it's a big issue. Housing and the cost of living, and they're linked, were the biggest issues 4 years ago, and they remain the biggest issues today. It just shows you how much better we've got to do.
Okay, Russell, thank you very much indeed for that. I think there's more to talk about with housing, and we can do, but it is, of course, linked to recruitment. David Waugh, I think you were first last time and you're last this time. What do you make of what's been said? And from, again, an employer perspective, perhaps your perspective on this would be really interesting here. What do you think we need to do?
Sure. I mean, Murray, I kind of get really frustrated hearing about this, because everybody over here is theorizing about what needs to be done, and we're at the coalface here. And what are we actively doing? So, well, the first thing is we have, as a business of 30 individuals, we have 2 non-qual licenses. In fact, probably a couple of years back, we were asked if we actually needed to, could we reduce that to 1, when in fact we should be going the other way. So that was how in touch government was with us as an active business. We do all our training in-house, because we find the people we're hiring do not have the skills required to work in our business. So all of our business, we're upskilling our workforce all the time. We currently have a young man called Jason here working in a Trident project here, working in this site where I'm talking to you from. He hopefully will become a future employee of Cooper's in whether it be a Saturday job, whether it be working in the cafes. We work 7 days a week. We have youngsters who are at school during the week and do some additional work at weekends. I'm just slightly nervous, concerned that a number of these candidates here don't actually know what's actually really going on in the world in which we operate. Despite all of that, we are still struggling to find new employees, even doing that. Yes, I totally agree. The cost of housing is a major factor. So is the cost of childcare. Childcare is outrageous. I'm sitting next door to a mum here who's been paying £1,600 a month to have her young child in nursery school for the first year, because her child didn't get born the right month to allow her to get the discount on her from the government. I mean, that's insane. I've had somebody else yesterday contact me on the same subject. there are so many bonkers things that go on, not just simply around housing, but other areas which are causing issues for potential employees. As Sam has suggested, that we are having to offer big packages. We offer some healthcare assistance as far as the package is concerned. Sam's going with this £10, moving the minimum wage to £10. We're already at over £11.20 for our living wage. You know, they're behind the curve. Everybody's behind the curve of what the sharp end of business is going on at the moment, to try and make sure that we retain staff and good staff. So, you know, I don't really know what else to do, because I feel housing's a long-term issue. I mean, I agree with the point about this two-tier system, and Sam's trying to clear up in terms of non-qual on the rentals area. We've got to sort that out. But we have definitely got to depress somehow the cost of living, the cost of housing in particular for people. And my plan would be that that's where the public sector comes in. That's where Andy Holmes comes in. Chris has alluded to it, separating these things out.
Okay. In terms of, have we got enough people on island? Because there was talk there of we've got to go back into the schools. There was talk there about how we've got to reach out and go to Highlands and get Highlands producing more skilled people. Two questions here. One is, are there enough people? And two, are there enough people who want to do that kind of job? We all want to go and have a coffee. We all want to go and stay in a hotel. We all want to go for dinner or buy something in our shops. But is there an attractiveness from people to want to go into that industry? David, stay with you, and then I'm going to come back to Sam, because I saw Sam shaking his head on the £10.
Yeah, okay. The answer in simple terms is no, there isn't. There aren't sufficient people. We know a significant number of people have gone back to Poland. We know a significant number of people have gone back to Portugal, and they are not going to come back. They're going to stay in their, stay in their locations where I presume they were going to get a better standard of living. On a positive note, we've just had 3 members of staff who've been able to afford their first time buying a home in Jersey. One of them's a local, and 2 others are immigrant workers who have come here and been here for 9 and 10 years. And that's great, because that gives them stability. It gives us as a business a bit more stability as well. So I can see little tiny things being improved. So I'm encouraged in that respect. But in your fundamental point is, have we got enough people? Simple answer, no.
Okay, Sam, on the £10 mark there, you were shaking your head noticeably.
Yeah, I apologise for rolling my eyes as well. It can be frustrating because it's not the first
Don't ever roll your eyes on camera.
Yeah.
It can come back to haunt you, believe me.
Yeah, indeed. It's the second time actually at a Hustings that David, I think, has come too close to just misleading listeners on what Reform Jersey's policy on this actually is. We don't have a policy for £10 an hour minimum wage. Our policy is to match the minimum wage with the living wage. It's simply that we've proposed that the first step towards that ought to be to get it to £10 an hour from the beginning of October this year. So it's just not right to suggest that that's somehow an end game we're looking at. And it certainly is the case that, it's great that David's business pays more than that, but lots of them don't. And for the low paid in Jersey, if they have a Reform Jersey-led government after this election, they'll get a pay rise on the 1st of October under us. And that's something that we're proud to promote.
Joe.
It's not true. I have a niece who is working as a delivery for a food outlet. She's being paid £16 an hour. The market, I have sympathy there for both parties and what they're saying, but the truth is a lot in hospitality are being paid over the minimum wage. Definitely everybody in my business has always been paid well over the minimum wage before I took any wage. We've got to be real about this. The answer is do we need to work towards a living wage? Absolutely. I 100% agree with we have to work towards that, but there is not. It's simplistic to think there is one answer: build more houses, free, let's get loads of sort of healthcare in there and nobody pays. You have to budget this. You have to deliver not a short-term solution. Anybody in business, in commerce, David, any party who has to build something from scratch, keep it going, wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning with the worry of how to employ and keep people paid, understands this. There is longevity needed, proper infrastructure, proper planning, layers. There is no easy answer, but we need to educate and we need to encourage And salary is really important, but it is one of many factors.
Okay, we're moving from recruitment into housing, and from housing, I guess, all the way around this is population, and
absolutely,
if we've got enough people coming in. Russell, is the last 4 years been a complete fudge of a population policy? Because it seems to be a rewrite of the policy of 4 years previous, and with a few minor changes, and we're still no further down the line, other than we're going to go and gather some data.
Well, I do feel that an honest conversation with the population about population between government and the people hasn't really happened to a very satisfactory level. The clamour to the consequences of answering the clamour to shut the borders haven't been properly explained. I mean, the catastrophe that would, result from immediately doing that kind of action. I think Roland Hewlin is to be applauded for his. It's not a population policy. It's a plan for a policy, a vision for a policy. Once we've got the right data, and I think people need to be aware that the biggest problem for most islands our size is a declining population. So we've got to plan this carefully. I want to have the population of Jersey stabilised, of course, and we must work towards that. It's going to be a little bit difficult to do that as we're coming to that hump at 2030 of the baby boomers being pensioners. That will then tail off. So we have to take the time to do it and gather the right data. So from my point of view, is trying to get more houses built. When I announced, as I was able to do 5 new government sites, I mean, government is so slow at releasing its own sites for housing, and I'm trying desperately to quicken that up. But whenever I announce, we're going to create a village with amenities, but lots of houses too, with Andium Homes at the helm in St Saviour's Hospital, look on Twitter and Facebook, and there they all are. We should have a population policy before we build any more houses. That is crazy. We're trying to play catch up because we built 2,000 fewer homes than we should have done in the decade to 2020. So I'm playing catch up, and Andium and SOJDC, and we cannot wait for a population policy. We have to house those people that have been on the housing gateway waiting list for 3 or 4 years, some of them.
Okay.
So that's the energy that I'm trying to drive through. We've got to crack this. Absolutely essential for the construction industry. So they've got a steady stream of work. Right. We've got to get that pipeline of future housing development stretching further into the future, and we've got to give developers and providers more certainty earlier, so that when the sites are available in 25, 26, 27, 28, 30, they're ready to go on in with a shovel.
Okay, thank you. Nick Lecornu, you mentioned before population and the fact that we've lost some of our population, and Brexit was one of the big issues of that, and you haven't got the magic wand for that. But in terms of our population or our plan for a population policy, do you think we've gone far enough? Do you think we've been bold enough? Or do you think we're still in no man's land? Hello, Nick.
You muted him.
Sorry. Apologies. I was put the question again, please. One thing I would say, I much enjoy this format of brainstorming. I think we should all together collectively form the new Council of Ministers, and I think we might be able to do something. The sort of adversarial style that is engendered by these elections isn't quite right. And thank you, Murray, for allowing us to interact and discuss. And I think we're getting somewhere with the various issues. Anyway,
excellent.
Murray, you had a particular question.
Your time, Nick. We'll move on to someone else now. No. So Nick, in terms of population, should we let more people in, and should we make it easier to get more people into our island, or should we be closing up the borders?
Yeah, the question's got to be, what is the minimum population for Jersey in which it can survive? Because now we've got a probably collapsing population. Large numbers of islanders are thinking of leaving, including the Jersey Beans. it's very serious, particularly Generation Rent, as it's called, the 30-somethings, the 20-somethings. They just don't see a future here. They've got skills. They're going to go elsewhere. It's a government that doesn't pay attention. It's the political will is completely lost. And it's, I don't know, they're in a different world. I'm going to suggest that we abolish housing qualifications. Now that to some might sound ludicrous, but the question was put at the Hustings in St Clement's last question. And the collectively, they all agreed, yeah, get rid of it. It doesn't work because it creates such social divisions in the island. If that didn't exist, people would come to the island, they'd have better accommodation to come to, and it's not the quick fix, but it's part of the policy. Childcare would be tremendous. That would bring a lot more women back into the labour market, even though we have very high levels of provision, but that can only be achieved by government intervention. It's free in Denmark, but they've got very high taxes. But remember, Jersey's low tax, low spend. We're getting to a world, we're getting to a crisis that the social democracy is the only solution to the capitalism. And capitalism, we see the crisis. And there's got to be a political solution to that. And only, I would argue, social democracy offers those kind of solutions. But no one's going to say that because they're not prepared to be ideological.
All right. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Sam's smiling, but I'm not coming to you yet, Sam. So thank you, Nick, for that. Angela Jeune, you were a former assistant minister at Health. You'll know as well as anybody from your medical background in training that with an aging population, which of course is a good thing because medical science has moved on to a level that we have a population that lives longer, and long may that be the case for all of us. That means that we have an aging population which costs more money and more people actually not working in a population than working in a population. That means that somebody's got to foot the bill somewhere. How do we balance that, Angela?
Well, firstly, can I just correct you on what you started with? I wasn't the Assistant Minister for Health. I was Assistant Minister for Social Security.
I do beg your pardon, Angela.
No,
I stand corrected.
Yeah, no problem. Yes, we have got an ageing population as any other country, really. Mm-hmm. It's no different here. The problem we have here is how do we actually care for those who are getting older and require it? Because remember, people are getting older, but they are older but a lot fitter. Not everybody is suffering from ill health or anything any more than any other person in the population. Jersey brought in a long-term care law around about, I think, 2014, 2015, somewhere around about there. They decided to fund it with taxation. They didn't look at funding it from social security contributions, which would have meant everybody would have paid towards it. In terms of what we're offering now, it's starting to look like the long-term care fund, if I go by what a number of other current state members are saying, is getting into dire straits and the money isn't there. So that needs to be reviewed. What is offered, this health department doesn't appear to do very much, whether you're young or old at the moment. They have major problems and that needs to be addressed. This care model that is being put out, I don't agree with it. I think it needs completely revamping. I think we need to work far more with the primary care providers, and we need their input. And from what I can gather to date, that input hasn't been all that good.
Angela, I'm going to stop you there if I can, because I want to get round, and we are running out of people, but running out of time with the amount of people we've got. But thank you for that input. Judy, as the last Social Security Minister that we've had, and are you concerned about the balance of percentage of a working population and a dependent population?
Absolutely, Murray, but you fell straight into that trap. You talked about recruitment, you talked about housing, and then you asked the candidates, have the government got it right over the last 4 years, or have they fudged it? Now, Murray, you were in there for 4 years, and I've been in there 22, and there's other candidates and parties on the line. And if somebody tells me today, tomorrow, in the next 3 years, they've got the problem solved of population, I'll show you somebody who's not completely...
But in fairness, Judy, when we both sat around the board that was there to advise the government with lay members, myself and a couple of others, we sat around that, and we were going to have a policy, and the policy was going to be delivered. Then the policy wasn't delivered. Then the policy was, it came in on 2 wheels, and one of the last sittings to be, well, it's not actually a policy, but it's a plan to make a policy. So
because we listened to industry, Murray, and industry said that, again, not the 9 months, it won't work for us, not the 4 years, nobody can ever stay permanent, that won't work for finance. All I'm saying, if this circle can be squared, please show me how to do it. I'll be the happiest states member in the world. I'll go along with you. No, we've got an elderly population. Social Security pension is paid this end. We started collecting it 70 years ago, and we started paying it out. And it's going to be, until we change that, where the younger people are paying, and Angela Shern's completely wrong, it's paid by taxpayers because they pay all their life. Social Security, you stop paying when you leave work, or 65 or whatever. So that's why the long-term care fund, and people do not lose their property. Remember, when it was run by the parishes, you'd save all your life. If you went into a home, people could lose everything. So, but the population is a very, very worrying thing. It's really weird. Nobody believes there's 103,000 people. They say that the census is wrong. When we gave out the yellow cards, think about it, we gave out around 103,000 yellow cards for every man, woman, child here. And I'll tell you now, if they weren't receiving them at those addresses, they were phoning my department daily. The population is around 103,000, and we haven't got enough to sustain the economy we already have. So work it out, please. Thank you.
I was just looking for my yellow card. I think it was in my wallet here somewhere still. Some of it's still unspent. I must go back. Right. David Waugh, recruiting people, we come almost full circle here, but just in terms of population policy, are there things that you would like to have seen different?
Gosh, I don't like talking about the back, going backwards, Murray, because my business is all about moving forwards and what's going on. There's a couple of things which have just come up, and one is on screen, and Kevin Keane has kindly put a diagram out on Twitter about the population. There's a big bulge of aging population going on. There, in a nutshell, in one image, is exactly the issue which we've been talking about, what Russell's been trying to deal with. So all of these, there, as I say, there's where the debate lies. Our problem is at that bottom end, that lower end, this younger age group, trying to find people to come in to work. It was interesting last night, St Clements, I disagree slightly with what Nick said, but basically St Clements doesn't want anybody to build anymore in St Clements. So it's quite interesting that the parishes are saying, we've got enough people in here, we're doing this, so as how do we square the circle? And I think that's a really valid point. How are we going to square this circle? Because in the end, we just ran out of people to run our business. Everybody's saying, oh, become more productive. We're in a service industry. What do people want us to do? End up having a coin to serve a cup of coffee? Is that what where we get to on productivity? It's interesting. We're actually just investing in a new automatic frothing device to help us froth milk more quickly, and that might save us a few hours in labour. We're all trying really hard to be more creative, but the reality is we have an immigration. We have actually right now, I believe, got an emigration problem, non-immigration problem, and we need to start thinking about ways to turn that around. we have no vision. We're talking about key workers, accommodation. One example is go back to the hospital again. What key worker accommodation is being provided? Has that been built into the equation to encourage people to come and fill the hospitals? As I said, we don't have the staff to do it now, and we don't have the accommodation to allow them to do it. Yet I don't see a vision for these in the long run. So I just think we just lack a big vision which joins all these various dots up.
Okay, thank you for that, Chris. I think you're the only one who hasn't had a couple of sentences on population, so I'll let you have those now, and then I've got some quick fire questions.
That's fine. Thank you, Murray. Yeah, immigration, and as Davis quite rightly pointed out, one of the biggest issues we've got is that the skilled youth we've got are leaving. They can't live here because they can't afford to live here. They're being offered jobs literally all over the world, which is the way the world is now. It's open, and qualified people can go and get those jobs anywhere in the world. So we need to make it more inviting for them to stay, firstly. Yes, we do need to still immigrate or bring in immigrants because, as I said earlier, short term, we just haven't got the people for these jobs. That's obvious. And therefore, we need to get them in quicker, which means getting rid of the licensing or at least making it a lot longer so that the trade, can actually employ staff who can come in. It has been mentioned and muted a couple of times. There is properties available. There is somewhere for them to live that won't affect the current housing market. But to be fair, we do need to build more housing. As I said before, there are 2 plans I've put forward for that. Thank you.
All right. Thanks very much indeed for that. This is going to be quick fire, so it's pretty much yes or no, because we're, excuse me, almost out of time. And our apologies for eating up an hour and 5 minutes, 10 minutes of your time already. It's gone by very, very quickly. Right, GST. Should we take GST off food? These are just quick fires. Should we take GST off food? Yes or no? David Waugh.
I think it's unfair. I think it needs to be looked at because it's going to take a chunk of tax money out of our economy to fund our government expenditure. I'm very conscious that Reform want to do that. I would look at it. I'd consider it. I just think it's very uneven. So that's my biggest concern, and I'm very worried about the consequences on Middle Jersey of that tax being removed.
Jolly good. Russell, GST. Here we go.
Not unless you can be certain that people will notice the difference at the tills. I've got, because government doesn't tell supermarkets how much they can charge for certain things.
Sure. I
have a feeling you'll take the GST off food and nobody will notice.
All right. Okay. Judy.
Well, I think it's a bigger problem than that. I think you take GST off food, the money, like David says, has to be we still need the money, and other things will go up. You'll get 8 or 10% on building materials. That really helps your housing prices. No.
Sam.
Oh, you can guess. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Short. Chris.
No, I don't think you should.
Okay. Joe.
It doesn't make any sense. Economically, it will improve life for people like me who spend a lot more on food, and your average Joe, it won't. Give them direct cash, direct enhanced contributions like Judy's done, much more effective. They get much more money in their pockets. Think it through, use logic.
Incidentally, Judy, should we get another spend local card, but as though everyone's having a hard time?
Well, as I say, there is a group meeting, Murray, and okay, literally for businesses, so they'll be ready to go with the new com. It may be that. It may well be that.
Okay. Nick Lecornu, yes or no, GST off food?
Well, we've got to recognise GST is a regressive tax. No, I wouldn't take it off. Let's hope GST never goes up. What we need to do is tax companies and the rich. Goodness, we have to raise revenues by other means, not just simply from working people and the poor.
Fine, let's just define the rich. Okay, but not now. Thank you, Angela. Yes or no from you?
No, and I agree with what David Waugh's comments were. And just to correct Judy Martin's earlier comment,
there we go.
When she said everybody pays tax, not everybody does pay tax, but everybody who works does pay Social Security.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Don't roll your eyes. On to university. I saw you, Judy. On to university. Should we have a university in Jersey? Yes or no? Sam?
Sounds like a great idea. Obviously, would require more investigation before signing it off, but sounds a very good idea in principle.
Good. Chris, university, yes or no?
Yes, and to an extent, it's already started. They're already doing university courses.
Joe?
I think we need a digi university over here. We don't have the resource to support a full-time university. We would be much better off with a vocational, really excellent training facilities and digi university.
Nick Lecornu, university, international students?
Well, I think the answer is going to be no, because where are we going to get the staff from? Where are we going to get the skills? Where are we going to get the accommodation for all these students who are going to be coming and living in Jersey? It just doesn't sound realistic. I mean, we need training, but that's best delivered where in United Kingdom. We need to attract back to the island because it's a beautiful island. It's our homeland.
Jolly good. Thank you very much indeed. I think that was a no. Angela Jern, yes or no, university?
No, I think we need to develop higher education and more remote learning, because you can do your university work remotely. And I completely agree, we need more vocational training here.
Really good. University, think of all those students who could work in coffee bars. David Waugh, university, yes or no?
I think we need to sort out the whole education system, first of all. I think we need, leadership, again, a vision for education. We need to make it fit for purpose 21st century. If that includes a university on Jersey, so be it. But I don't know that government's in a position to allow to be able to make that call.
Russell.
Yes. And in the meantime, let's support properly the principal of Highlands College so that she can run her courses sometimes with 20 in the intake one year. If it goes down to 5 the next year, we shouldn't cancel the course. We should keep it going.
Really good. Judy?
Well, I think only if we could really work with Guernsey. I think it really, it's beneficial for lots of young people to go off of the island for a while. And it's the accommodation. We can't fit student accommodation in with the rest of our housing problems. So that's why it's a no.
Okay, final yes or no question. It really is a yes or no because we're down to the last 3 minutes. And this one is, because I've got Russell here. Let me think. Oh, yes, senators. Do we miss having senators? So I bet you've all had someone who's got in touch with you as a candidate and said, I would vote for you, but you're not in my constituency. This is really frustrating. And there's no one in my constituency I could vote for. So senators, yes or no? Angela Jern.
What's in a name? I don't care whether we have senators or not. I'll
tell you what's in a name. You get an island-wide vote with a senator. You don't in your constituency.
Well, allow me to finish then. I do agree with an island-wide vote.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Island-wide vote, Nick Lecornu, yes or no?
No, we need one category of states member, all elected on the same day in constituencies of equal size. The last Commonwealth Parliamentary Association recommended, and Russell followed it through, good to him, was to create a new system which would lead towards equity and a single entity states member.
Thank you. And we still have connotabs. Joe Luce.
We have an island-wide mandate through Jersey Alliance, but I absolutely think it's good to have senators. Sorry.
Chris Hopkins.
Everyone's talking about island-wide mandate. You're absolutely right there. But obviously, I believe you should vote for the person who lives in your area.
Sam Mazek, the person who lives. I think I know what you're going to say here. Senators, do you miss not being a senator?
Well, until the 27th of June, I remain one, but I was the last to be sworn in, and I hope I will remain the last to have ever been sworn in. We should have one type of member in equal size constituencies. I don't really care what the size of the constituency is, but they should be called deputies. And if it is island-wide, it ought to be done on a party basis. Otherwise, it will be too unruly.
Jolly good. Deputy Judy Martin, deputies or senators?
We don't have Clovia. We should have Clovia. We should have one category of states member. What we've got now is only 8 uncontested elections with the silly none of the above. I think that's going to be very interesting. But no, it literally, we've medalled 2,000 Clovia did his report. We're 22 and we've got a half-bred, one type of states member.
So that's a no then. Russell, I think I know where you're going with this one. Do you regret any of this? Because you have taken a little bit of heat from this.
No, because I delivered what the public of Jersey asked for overwhelmingly in the 2013 referendum. And once we'd made this change, it will possibly be better and more possible to make further changes as required. But look, let's give this a chance. It's what the public of Jersey voted for in overwhelming numbers. Let's give it a chance and then see how we go. And let's not lose sight of the fact, Judy's absolutely right. We've got real contests for all the deputy seats. And let's not forget how absolutely dire those senatorial elections had become. And actually how little change in terms of who got elected occurred from them.
Okay, I'm halfway through the process of the 93 candidates that I have to talk to in these hustings, so I will move very shortly. Just wanted to emphasise that. David Waugh, you get final word. Senators, deputies, you're on mute, by the way. You're on mute, David. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay, I'm on mute. Okay, sorry, Murray. What I was going to say was I have not got enough fingers and toes for the number of people who've said they wanted to vote for me who are outside of St Helier South. However, I'm with Russell on this one in that let's see how it all works out. And I personally think the tendency is going towards an island-wide mandate for everybody, not just simply senators. That's right. That's my take.
Marvellous. One day all hustings will be run this day. Thank you all very much indeed for joining us today. It's been enjoyable, engaging, very interesting, and we'll make sure our chamber members get the recording of this. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Murray.
Murray.
Thanks, Murray. Bye.
Murray, apologies for being late.
All good. Take care.